Hello and welcome. I'm recording this from the deserts of northern Arizona, where I have been out harvesting yucca leaves. And today, I'm going to do a brief review of a class that I'll be presenting on crafting yucca cordage out of yucca leaves. Here in the northern Arizona deserts, there are abundant yucca plants. And briefly, I'll say that in harvesting, using a knife, cutting it at the base, and only harvesting a leaf or two per plant so that there's low impact, so that it leaves no trace and isn't just cutting plants down. And when sustainably harvesting the leaves, find areas that are maybe off the beaten path, not right next to the road. So once you have the leaves, we're going to go through the steps of how to prepare the leaves and make them into yucca cordage. First off is tools and materials. Next is the steps or processes of action. And then third would be why. Why are you doing this? Why crafting yucca into cordage? So we'll briefly talk about those and then go into the skills applicable steps. First off, the materials. The yucca leaf, as far as definitions, things you would want to know, we'll be discussing as I go through the action steps. Talking about the skin of the leaf, which is a bit leathery. It's tough. It's a desert plant and it has a very tough skin on it. And then under the skin is both the fibers, which we're after for the yucca cordage, and a lot of pulp, which would be the material in between the fibers. The skin, the pulp, and the fibers we're going to be talking about as we go through the action steps. While doing the womping for tools, we'll be using, they could be sticks off of a tree. These happen to be pieces of wood that were gathered. And the womping is literally using the stick to strike the leaf and mash the pulp and breaking the skin. That's the first step of action. We'll go through the different steps of processing it in a minute. But next, I would say as a review, just talking about why one is making yucca cordage. In learning a new skill. First, having the right materials, having the right tools. And second, having action steps. And then third, why? Why are you doing it? And that why is what will carry one through the sometimes repetitive motions during the processing of the yucca leaves. Some would process yucca leaves for making survival tools. Cordage can be used to tie up shelters, can be used to make a fire bow, the string on a fire bow for making coals, building fire. It can also be used as a survival snare for animals and could be used to make a sling, a stone sling out of the fiber. So there are many practical uses. A person may also simply wish to learn the hands-on skill of being able to craft things, express their creativity through making yucca cordage. It could also be considered a moving meditation, reconnecting with the skills of our ancestors and to understand at a deeper level what was required back in ancient times as people were sustaining their own things and stuff by crafting out of the things that nature had available for them, such as the yucca leaves. So in a moving meditation, it would simply be allowing the motion, the repetition to be calming, grounding, and settling, which in today's world, those are valuable things as one learns to manage their own emotional state and their well-being. Having a hands-on craft can be very valuable that way. So next we will pause the video here. We're going to bring the camera in and do a little more of the hands-on crafting the leaves, and I'll demonstrate those upcoming. We're going to be using a whomping stick and a striking block, and there may be some video edits simply to make the time of processing not take up as much of the camera time. Start by pounding to break the pulp and to break the skin without necessarily breaking the fibers. So you don't want to hammer through the fibers to where they're being broken. We want to whomp enough that it breaks the skin and that it breaks the pulp. Beginning to break open the skin, and it's beginning to separate the fibers a little bit. A little more whomping. And as we continue the whomping, the fibers will separate and they travel the entire length of the leaf. So if you find that your fibers are breaking or are not traveling the length of the leaf, there may be too much whomping that's breaking the fiber, where using wood should allow the fibers to stay intact as you're doing the whomping. So we'll pause the camera, do a bit of whomping, and we'll come back and talk about the results in just a moment. The skin is starting to break open, and the fiber, or the pulp, is being smashed. Do a little bit of separating here to show how these fibers are in the leaf and how they come apart from the pulp and the skin. So here we have a section of leaf that has been whomped to the point where the fibers are starting to separate out. By pulling a few of these fibers, we may be able to get them loose to show the process. For this demonstration, I'm going to separate this out, seeing how the strands of the fiber are traveling the full length of the leaf here, and getting the fibers separated from the pulp and the skins is our main job at this point. And just using these for demonstration, I'll show a little bit more of the whomping, and then we'll begin doing some scraping. So for the fibers that we've got here, as I go through and continue whomping, you'll see how the smashing of the fiber allows the pulp to come out. Here we've got the fibers separating and the skin is coming loose, and as you can see how those separate fairly easily, now we're ready to begin the scraping process. For scraping, there can be several options of tools. One option is to use a rock with a sharp edge, not necessarily sharp, but that allows for a good scraping edge on it. Using the same block, we'd begin scraping in this fashion right there, bringing the pulp and the skin separate from the fibers of the leaf. And along with using a rock as a tool, sometimes simply using a spoon, using the edge of the spoon as a scraper can help to remove the skin and the pulp from the fibers of the leaf. You may notice that it pulls some of the fibers with the scraping, so less pressure with the scraping if you start noticing fibers coming loose as you're scraping out the skin and the pulp. The length of the fiber running the entire length of the leaf. So as we're starting to get the fibers cleaned up, a little bit more scraping and we'll demonstrate the next steps. For the purpose of demonstration, we're going to work with the material that we have here and move on to the next step. And the fibers are mostly cleaned up and ready to begin twisting into the cordage. We'll set aside some of the fibers and just holding on to the fibers that we're going to use, which, depending on the thickness of the cordage that you wish to make, would determine how much you have in your hand. We'll start with this amount right here, and beginning by twisting the cordage away, twisting the fibers away from me, and as I twist them, it gets tighter until it doubles up and starts to wind onto itself. And this is the beginning. This is what we want to have as we start making the twist of the cordage. And the way that it's done is roll the cordage away and pull the strand towards you. Roll it away and pull it towards you. Roll or twist away and pull towards. Twist away and pull towards. Twist away and pull towards. And you see the beginning of the cordage as we're starting to get the fibers to weave together, making this strand that will become our finished product right here. And as we twist away and pull towards, that allows the natural twisting movement to make the fibers want to wind together into the cordage. Noticing that with each movement, the strand below becomes the strand above by pulling, twisting, and pulling. Twisting and pulling. Twist away and pull towards. Twist away and pull towards. Now at this phase, we're almost ready to demonstrate how to add new fibers into the strands that you're working. And the way that that is done, we'll demonstrate here by grabbing a little bit of fibers, not quite as much as we had in this bundle, because we're just going to be adding to it. And we're going to simply set the fibers into the bundle where we're going to add to the length here. You can untwist them so that the fibers are kind of like matching up, and then twist in the new fibers and simply letting the end of the fiber just hang loose. And as you twist and as you pull it down and towards you, twist it away, pull it towards you, twist away and pull towards, twist away and pull towards, twist away and pull towards. What will happen is the end of the fibers that you added in will simply stick out. They can be trimmed off, they can be singed off with a lighter that will pretty much just bring them down to where they match up with the rest of the cordage like that. Now as as you continue with the twisting, and you continue twisting away and pulling it towards, twist away, pull it towards, you'll notice that the thickness of these start to get a little bit smaller, and that's the point where you want to be adding in new fibers. So we're going to grab the bundle here, and we're going to grab out a few of the fibers and add in more fibers on the other strand, so that we're keeping the thicknesses as constant as possible, and the ends of the fiber will simply stick out and be trimmed off later. The advantage is that as fibers are added, it keeps the length going. Going to add in some more fibers here, grabbing the bundle, and we'll add a bunch into here, just like so. Twist away and pull towards you. Twist away and pull towards you. Twisting away, pulling towards. So with this motion, one can weave an indefinite length. As long as you have more fiber to add in, you can continue weaving and make it as long as needed for your application. And our thickness, because I've been adding more fibers in, our thickness is staying consistent with where it was when we started. So you can compare the thickness by folding it over and seeing how that is. All these ends that are simply sticking out will be trimmed off later. And there we have the beginning of Yucca Cordage. And like most hands-on crafts, simply practice, practice, practice. Let it be a moving meditation. Allow the process to be grounding. Allow it to have you feel connection with nature, connection with the ancestors and the people throughout history before us who depended on these natural skills, on these primitive skills to sustain their livelihood and to sustain their food and shelter. So with that, that completes the workshop review, and we will talk to you later.